Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to North American soil as the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League returns to Road America for round number 5. At the halfway point, and tonight's race will be officially halfway through our season. And a great season it's been so far as well. All 3 of our class championships separated by 21 points or less after the first 4 rounds, which is good news for us as we welcome you to RaceSpotTV. My name's Ewan O'Leary, alongside Darragh Thacker tonight with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. Enjoyed our trip to Europe last week, Darragh, over to the Red Bull Ring for just a round, and now we return to North American soil, Road America, a classic sports car circuit, to have our last round in September and indeed reach the halfway point this season.
Yeah, very different surroundings to 7 days ago at the Red Bull Ring, but Road America is a classic, really, isn't it, of GT3 racing in the USA. It's going to be very different from Mid-Ohio next week, which is going to be a little bit tighter, a little bit more technical. This is a more open, wide and power-dominant circuit, so I think it's going to be interesting to see who can make use of the many overtaking opportunities there are around this circuit. But because there are so many straights, you feel like a lot of the time is spent where you're just trying to trail the car and get a little bit of time with the slipstream. So you're going to have to make those overtaking opportunities work for you over the course of this relatively short race.
Yeah, and it is indeed pretty short. 40 minutes, of course, on the clock tonight. Martin Wallace is the leader of the Pro Championship. This is our second closest of the 3 classes. He's got 7 points over Ian Carney, and Matt Smotherman not too far away either. Skylar Vickroy and Tyler Guillemette round out the top 5. Ken Copeland has not been with us for a few weeks now, unfortunately, and once again he's not in the list tonight, so it's looking like he has come in, won 2 races and then left again, unfortunately, which is a shame. Chris Walsh, Gene Kelly and Rodney Campbell have also missed a couple of races. Jonathan Labby, I think, has missed 3 out of the 4 so far, and is 10th at the moment in the Pro standings. In the beneficial standings, it's Louis Rioche who's leading the way by just 2 points over Cameron Lackney. What a great season those two are having, and what a great battle we've got to enjoy as well. Not too far behind, Philippe Chartier and Nolan Uke as well, only 4 points apart. Then you get to those who've missed rounds. John Hicks rounding out the top 5. David Bell, Tanner Masters, who has been towards the front, but as I say, not here every time. John Salado, Cody Durkin and Joshua O'Connor rounding out the 10. In the open class, it's Justin Bessett leading by 21 points ahead of Francisco Vega. Carl Shelton is 3 points in front of Nicholas Batista and Zach Pritchard, with Mason Cardinale just outside that top 5. Rui Farina Pereira and Tyler Manning are tied on points in 7th, with Jacob Little and Andrew Cooper rounding out the open class field. Practice has just come to an end, 10 minutes of qualifying to come, and it's quite dusky actually out there. Well, not sure whether this is sunrise or sunset actually. We'll see the conditions in a moment. There we are, sunset, 5:30 in the evening, about a month away from today. 21 degrees Celsius, which is 70 Fahrenheit on the circuit. Not too bad in terms of conditions then, but if the race starts a little bit later than this, Darragh, because it's getting towards the autumn time and the winter time just around the corner, sun's going to be in the eyes maybe in some places, certainly in the way of our camera there, and it also could be headlights required maybe by the end of 40 minutes if indeed we have an evening start tonight.
Yeah, and it always makes it slightly more difficult as well when you've got that sun to deal with, and there are parts of this track that are relatively exposed that will not be particularly helped out by a low sun, particularly I'm thinking towards turns 1, towards turn 2 from turn 1, and then also out of places like the carousel could be awkward as well. But drivers, these are all things that they have to deal with. They've got 10 minutes to get a qualifying lap in, which actually isn't that long, particularly in a circuit like this. This is a very, very long lap in these GT cars, and so I suppose that they're only going to be able to really get a lap or 2 in here to get their best time on the board, which means that they have to perform from the word go. And the practice session that they just did really was a session to set themselves up well for this qualifying session. But they're starting very close to each other, aren't they? Down the start-finish straight, a little bit of weaving to go to boot as well. So clearly, a couple of them aren't just ready to start flying around this circuit just yet.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to spend a lap or so at least in these GT3s actually getting tyres up to temperature. I mean, in some series where you're limited in terms of laps, say you're limited to 3 laps, which is effectively what's going to happen here anyway, even though that's not a limit per se. It's the 10 minutes, of course, but you're going to need all 3 laps to get your tyres warmed up. And that's another factor of these conditions as well. Cooler temperatures in these GT3s. Normally you'd celebrate at seeing cooler temperatures, low 70s Fahrenheit temperatures, very good, used to be for GT3s, but now you've got to get the tyres warmed up. It takes that extra little bit of time, and you do celebrate maybe a little bit less with the conditions the way they are because of that tyre warm-up phase. I mean, this will be the first flying lap for Bradley Beeman, but he definitely, and indeed all of them, but they're definitely going to go quicker second time round. It's almost a guarantee because it just takes that time to get up to speed.
Yeah, it does, and like you said, with this being such a short session, that they really have to make sure that they nail those metrics of getting the car into a good working window and good way to operate, really, because they have to make sure that the car will deliver for them on the 1 or 2 laps they really can fly around this circuit. So yeah, it's all a bit of an art, really, particularly in the GT3 car, particularly after the update that iRacing brought out not too long ago. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if we do see a bit more of a jumbled up pack in this qualifying session than we've seen throughout the season, almost purely because of the fact that it is such a, I mean, it's nearly one-shot qualifying. We're getting towards that realm, right? They're only going to be able to get another couple of laps in from this point onwards as you come out of the final corner, and you can see the lap time is over 2 minutes. So this is going to be a really interesting session. But it does seem that behind Ian Carney at the moment, the times are very tight. Where does Bradley Beeman pop his car? He caught up a couple of cars over the course of the lap, and you can see why. P4 for number 20.
Good start to the session. Everybody blinks in and out just a little bit. You know how many there are in the session, but once again, it's a very, very good entry across the board. There goes Anthony Howard over the line. Not a 9-second lap time. That is a glitch in the timing. That will rectify itself in a moment. Ian Carney, though, has got the best lap time at the moment. The only driver in the 2:03s. Still plenty of times to come, though, and probably go quicker than that as well. Jonathan Labby hasn't got a lap hit at all just for the moment in the pro division. Zach Merrill moves up to 3rd place meantime as well from the open class. So good lap time from him as well. Tanner Masters up to 3rd place. Very good start for him in the beneficiary class. That's moving up into 3rd position. Very, very good lap time early on as Tyler Beeman now gets in behind one of the Corvettes. As you commented at the time, actually, very, very close positioning between a lot of these drivers. And there's another couple of Aston Martins who are positioned very close to one another. Slipstream is a factor around here, but some of them I think are getting maybe a bit too close for qualifying.
Yeah, and this is it's a big circuit. It's a very, very big venue. So they're going to be short of space around the circuit, and they are pushing each other through some of these corners. So it is interesting to see. But it seems to be working all right for a couple of drivers at the moment, particularly if they feel like the car in front of them is running a little bit quicker than them. Because even if they catch by the end of the straights, they have gained some time that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to pick up. Tyler Guillemet's gone quickest, 2 minute 3.5, showing that you really do need to warm the car up. Justin Bassett has gone to 2nd. Martin Wallace going to jump to the top. We're going to see a big evolution, I think. Oh my word, cars all over the road at the final corner. Ian Carney's gone fastest, number 54, but it does seem that times are improving as we get ever closer towards the end of the session. They might have one more go at it to see if they can knock off Carney, Manning now, or Masters from the top spot.
Absolutely. There's, as I say, only going to be one more chance, and that chance has started right now for Chris Walsh. This is Richard Davenport, who hasn't got a lap in yet at all. Whether he'll get to the line, should get to the line in time to do one more at the end of this session, which is good news. And he'll now come through the very, very fast right-handed kink at turn 11. Was always a fearsome corner, certainly on lap 1 as well. Going to be one to be feared at the beginning of the race. And then down towards Canada Corner, one of those overtaking chances. Mason Cardinal moves up into 2nd position. We'll see how many overtakes will indeed be happening down on the brakes up there in towards Canada Corner. You can imagine that's where the racing is going to be over the course of 40 minutes. Hopefully this season, especially in the last few weeks, we've selected circuits that have all been pretty good for overtaking. Even Laguna Seca, which was probably the most difficult so far, was like that. But I've got to say, there are some tighter circuits coming up at Mid-Ohio, Watkins Glen Mosport and VIR, we might well have gotten the bigger, more open circuits out the way early this season.
And even tracks like Mosport, I think, are really quite good. When you get towards the S, it's difficult to really lose too much time around those tracks. Yes, they're medium speed, and you by rights would lose time in the dirty air, but you feel that you can stick pretty close in Mosport, and even at VAR as well. There are a good couple of overtaking spots that we can look towards, because, like you said, Laguna Seca was a very good race, and a circuit where you'd probably expect less overtaking because of the characteristics of the circuit. Meanwhile, with the times popping in again as drivers complete their laps, Ian Carney's gone back to the top. Guillemette and Vic Roy finding him out for it second and third, but Mason Cardinal, what about from him? P4 in that open class by quite some distance as well.
Absolutely. That's always an advantage as well, having those other class drivers in between you and your closest rivals always helps a lot, as Anthony Howard now comes up towards the line. Hasn't got a time on the board yet at all for the open class. 2:06.9, that's not going to be troubling the top, unfortunately, and that's why you've got to build up throughout the session. You've got to continue to get faster, you've got to continue to warm these tyres up, otherwise it's not going to work. About 35 in the field tonight, by the way, and it seems that a lot of them, a few anyway, haven't set tyres just yet. Louis Rios, as far as I can see, at least didn't have a time up until a few moments ago. He does now, 15th place. Tanner Masters, though, moves up in front of him into 13th place. Looks like the beneficiary pole has been sorted there, and it's going to be between Masters and Rios by the looks of things. Cameron Lackney is in here somewhere as well, I think. Oh no, maybe not actually. Maybe not in the session today. So looks like it might well be between Masters and Rios, but based on the evidence of qualifying, it might be a good fight between them as well. And we've seen plenty of that in the beneficiary class so far this season.
Yeah, it's been good to see, I think, with the different classes that we've had over the course of the season so far, and the way that the championships are panning out, that we do have many named in each of the classes that are gonna have or very well may come to the fore over the course of the season. Skylar Vickroy, can he improve as he runs up to the line? This is his final chance. The tractor flag is flying. Needs a couple of attempts in hand to try and displace Carney and Guillemette. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it, but Matt Smotherman, just about misses out on pole. He's only 12 thousandths off Ian Carney's time.
Not a bad lap time, that's a very, very strong time indeed, and Smotherman very nearly goes to the top as Francisco Vega also comes across the line in the top 10. It's going to be a split of 6-4 by the looks of things, with the first four all pro drivers, and I don't think things are going to change further out front before the end of the session. Quick thank you, by the way, to the sponsors of this series before we properly get going and bring you the grid here in a few moments' time. Of course, CrowdStrike and Michelin for their continued support. Big thanks to them. And also Trophy AI, who are back on board again for season 11 of the Operation Motorsport, eMotorsport iRacing League. Big thanks to all of them for making this series possible. One that we've had the pleasure of watching here on RaceSpotTV and covering here over the course of the season so far. It's been great fun to do. I'm sure tonight is going to be no different at Road America as the qualifying session draws to a close. Let's bring you the starting grid ready for round 5 of the championship, and it is Ian Carney who's on the pole ahead of Matt Smotherman. Tyler Guillemette and Skylar Vickroy rounds out an all-pro first 2 rows. Mason Cardinal and Gene Kelly then are on row 3. Mike Wallace and Justin Bessett then on 4 ahead of Francisco Vega and Tyler Manning, who rounds out the top 10. Chris Walsh and Jonathan Labby then on row 6. It's an all-open class row 7 with Zach Pritchard and Carl Shelton. Tanner Masters, the beneficiary class pole sitter, ahead of Zach Merrill on row 8. Cameron Burke and Nolan Uke round out row 9. Mitch Herrick and Louis Rios are the last drivers inside the top 20, with Nicholas Batista and Bradley Beeman next. John Solana and Eric Knight are on row 12. Dustin Wells and Tyler Beeman, the first of the all Aston Martin rows, row 13. Dave Bell and John Hicks next, ahead of Peter McDade in 29th. Anthony Howard in 30th. Philip Chartier, the last driver, to set a time in 31st. Cody Durkin, Tyler Reid, Aaron Mack, Thomas Guthrie, Richard Davenport all participated in the qualifying session to some degree, but they didn't set any lap times. So I do wonder whether they will race or not. Hopefully they do. That would give us 36 starters tonight, if we can get them all onto the grid. It's going to be a very packed up grid as well on the run down towards turn 1, Dara. It's not a big braking zone or anything, but drama at turn 1 is not unheard of at Road America, that is for sure.
Yeah, absolutely not. It does pinch a little bit, doesn't it, at the apex, and then you get towards turn 2 and 3, and again, there's just not much room for error. I think it's a characteristic of this circuit, of course, as it is with many American circuits, with very little runoff on the exits of some of these important corners. You think even that Canada corner, the gravel trap is there to bite if you're not too careful. So, yeah, I think unsurprising that we might see some let's call it jostling for position in the early stages, because it can easily go wrong, and with so many cars on the circuit, it almost certainly will somewhere over the course of the field. But it's then about picking your way through. If you're further back in the order, there's going to be a chance where, you know, cars go left, right and centre. I know we've, you know, talked over races here and where people have been able to make up, you know, 20 places in a 50-car field on the opening lap here at Road America, by picking their way through the order. So, yeah, it's definitely possible, and big gains are on the table if you're further back, but you've got to be so cautious, and it's difficult to really do that at such what is really a frantic start.
And there's sort of no, it's sort of very, very low reward actually for those at the front as well. When you get enough to start Road America here, you just wanting to hold on to position and let the race just settle out a little bit before you can, you know, properly get into the race, indeed into the sort of single file running, which I'm sure we'll get early on. But I do wonder what a race for the win this could be between the likes of Ian Carney, Maximum and Tyler Goodman. From memory, this is one of the closest qualifying sessions we've had this season. All three of them covered by less than a tenth. And it's one of the raciest circuits of the season, no doubt, but also one of the longest. So to have them all that close on a lap time like this is pretty remarkable, and perhaps a good sign for the race as well. A good signs that we weren't getting really in the first couple of rounds when Ken Copeland was on pole and indeed then running away by a long way each time.
Yeah, and it really does feel that there is going to be a competitive nature to each race that we've had in the last few weeks, with those, as you mentioned, those qualifying times very, very tight, and we get into the race and it's almost replicated. We do have battles for the lead. We saw that last week at the Red Bull Ring. We weren't exactly sure who was going to be in the lead by the end of the race for quite some time. It was only when we got into the final couple of laps that we really got some clarity on where the race was panning out. But hopefully we get more of the same here, and I have no doubt that we will. This is a track that, even though it's long, we saw gaps aren't particularly big, and because of that fact, and because of the fact we're only going to be running, give or take, 18, 19 laps here at a maximum, if you're only losing, 12 thousandths per lap, when you add that up over the course of, even 20 laps, that's just over 0.2 of a second. And obviously you're not going to be able to do that in the race, but it just goes to show that the pace is very close between these guys. And this track is long enough and got enough overtaking opportunities that I think we could see trains form. And even if we see some battling and breaking up of the train, it's going to be some really quite exciting little tussles, I think, which is something to look forward to.
Yeah, well, let's see how we go tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun, as always, in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. Here with you every Tuesday night until the end of October, when we round our season out at the Virginia International Raceway. It's quite a place to have a championship finale, by the way. Anyone within 35 points of their championship leader, their series leader, their class leader, will be in with a theoretical chance of winning the title. And if it stays this way, then there's going to be quite a few drivers within the 35 as it stands in each of the classes, because it's been very, very close across the board, as we saw with the standings at the beginning. It's a very congested front to each championship, actually, which is good news for us watching on from home. As the pace car now pulls through the final couple of corners and into the home straight in a moment. And that will allow Ian Carney and Matt Smotherman to race away to the start line. How long are they going to leave it before they get going here? Carney will be in control of the field, of course. The Porsche on the left-hand side, ahead of the BMW, who will be on the outside line as it is going in towards turn number 1. Pace car pulls in, and we are ready to go here from Road America. It's round 5 of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League, and there's already stacked up in the back as they were expecting Ian Carney to go a little bit earlier. He's waiting, holding, and he's being flashed at now as well. The green flag waves, and they are now all released together, and Carney could well be in a free wide moment in the moment. Here he goes. Tarek Guillemet's going to go on the inside line, looking for that free wide, but it's Smotherman on the outside who's going to take the lead. He's being bump drafted almost. Guillemet tries to stick his nose down the inside, but can't. He's almost, he's wide, is Smotherman, and straight back through again goes the pole sitter Ian Carney into the lead of this race down towards turn 3 for the first time.
Oh! Off the road though goes Skylar Vicroy. A little bit of contact it's seen with Tyler Guillemet as they work their way through turn number 2. Matt Smotherman just trying to find his way through as well. Mason Cardinal, good start for him, but he's alongside Martin Wallace. Those two fighting it out for P4 overall, but Smotherman fighting with Guillemet a long way behind Ian Carney. The spinning Skylar Vicroy has meant that there's a big gap for the pole sitter, and you can just about see that we'll see that incident here. A little bit of contact as they made their way through between the 28 and the 5. Difficult to really judge it from that angle, but either way, Guillemet is P3 and Skylar Vicroy all the way at the back of the field.
Yeah, trying to gain places off the start, Vicroy, and in the end ends up losing quite a lot. That's Bessick going backwards, by the way, behind Labby in the background. Pritchard and Chris Walsh also side by side for 10th. With Justin Bessick as well down in towards turn 7, so it was all happening there. A couple of spins further down the field as well that I'm sure we'll go back and have a look at when things settle down here for a moment. But Ian Carney leads by over a second. Matt Smotherman, the one under pressure, as Charlie Guillemet tries to get up into second. The place he looked like he had in hand on the run down towards turn number 1, but in the end got shuffled out and boxed in. This is what happened, by the way. Oh, wow! Dave Bell absolutely power drives one of the McLarens there down in towards turn 5.
Yeah, and you can just about see the amount of carnage from 5 or 6 cars off the road there, which is not what we wanted to see, but it's a hazard at that circuit. It's been many a bad crash down there. It does, right up with the wall on the inside. There's a moment in behind, by the way. Martin Wallace and Dean Kelly fighting, I should say, with Mason Cardinal, and as they rise their way up towards the start-finish line once again, they're lucky to have all made it through, quite frankly. Cardinal's going to make the move on Dean Kelly momentarily, whilst Manning and Chris Walsh fight side by side in behind. This top 8 have kind of separated themselves in that. Well, I said the top 8, second to 8, because the gap for Matt Smotherman is 2 seconds ahead to Ian Carney, and still he fights with Tyler Guillemet, allowing the 54 to just run away at the moment.
It's clear in qualifying Carney was just about the quickest, had his nose in front of the rest, but if they fight like this, then he'll be a long way in front of the rest as Charlie Guillemet again gives it another go. We now good the McLaren is in a straight line situation. It always has been, and it's coming down the inside here of that big BMW, stuck up on the outside, and Charlie Guillemet finally goes through into second position, but no, there goes Smotherman on the exit. He gets the cut back here, gets to the inside in time for turn 6. Will he get on the way through? It doesn't look like it. Charlie Guillemet stays in front, nearly 3 seconds now the gap though. It's only a lap and a half into the race.
Yeah, it's just the battle between each other. It's not that they're particularly slow at all. It's just the fact that they've been scrapping enough to lose all of that time to the race leader. They've allowed Martin Wallace and Mason Cardinal to stick around as well. They've been fighting themselves, and so they haven't really been able to benefit in that regard at all. But Guillemet looks like he built himself up a nice enough buffer of about half a second that he'll be safe from a couple of Smotherman attacks over the next lap or so, and they can focus now on trying to turn that screw and start chasing down Ian Carney, because it could be a race on mission at this point.
Could well be, and don't forget again, we don't have very much time in these races either, which is could be a problem a little bit later on when you're trying to close a big gap. But he's initially taken a couple of attempts off it as Guillemet, so that's wide from Wallace, and Mason Cardinal behind tries to apply the pressure. This one happened to Tyler Reid and the Aston Martin. I think it might just be technical problems for him there. No, he just definitely slowed down. Oh no, there we go. There's the spin through turn 6. nearly ends up in the concrete wall, but he'll get away with that as Cardinal looks to the inside here of Martin Wallace. In the awkward position here of wanting to overtake a driver who's slower than him, but knowing they're not in the same class and also knowing that he's got a couple of cars breathing space anyway, has Cardinal at the moment.
He does. Got to be careful of that lap car on the inside, though, not exactly staying fully out of the way. Oh, well, the lap's out of the way. Into the grass, into yonder, quite frankly. I'm not too sure what happened there, but regardless, everyone's going to make their way through now. A bit of a gap behind Martin Wallace too. Mason Cardinal's going to be wary of those two, Gene Kelly and Chris Walsh, because they're going to be very keen to get through quickly. Tyler Manning is going to be just licking his lips, really, because Cardinal's the one who's vulnerable here, and if Kelly and Walsh try something, then Tyler Manning's going to be the one to pick up the pieces in terms of the open class. Gene Kelly fighting an attack from Chris Walsh up the inside into what would have been turn 6, but he hasn't gone for it there, hasn't gone for it just before the carousel, but he really wants to get a move on in this race.
And this is Tyler Manning watching on as well. He really wants them to get on with it, I think, as well, whether that's a pass here or getting organised so that he can catch Mason Cardinal here. That will be Tyler Manning's objective in these next few moments. A little bit of a wheel dipped on the grass there as they come onto the bridge now and through the kink. Oh, and a big snap and a big crash! Oh, Gene Kelly's in the wall hard there through the kink. My goodness, that's a big place to have an accident. And it's a miracle, quite frankly, that not more were involved in that. Chris Walsh was so close behind that Ferrari, and it is a minor miracle that he is not involved in that huge accident for Gene Kelly.
Oh, careful. Oh, my goodness me. Nearly reversing into another car, but let's see. Gene Kelly, you could just about see the wiggle, couldn't you? To be honest, good spot, really. You put it very early, but you could see that front end starting, couldn't you?
And there's trouble in live pictures as well as Kelly's trying to get back going again. We'll get a replay of this in a second as well, but I mean, look at this snap. Got absolutely no chance. Oh my goodness, that is a big accident. But there's another one coming, by the way. You just stay with this for the rejoin, because Gene Kelly, as he pointed out at the time, had a pretty dangerous reverse back onto the racetrack, and then got away with that, but I think he's been absolutely smashed by somebody as he was trying to get back going again. This is the first bit. Watch out. Backs it into the wall there, and now what happens second time round? I think there's been a bit of a oh yeah, that car's damaged. Oh, miscommunication with the Aston Martin. Kelly had no idea the damage was that bad. He was rolling over the racetrack and he was collected by an Aston Martin and nearly another Porsche as well. That was a bad moment.
Yeah, Aston Martin, without really anywhere to go in that moment, tried to go left, but then the car started moving to the left after moving to the right, which is, yeah, a horrible position to be in for the car behind. But yeah, both cars now heavily damaged and realistically out of contention in this race. So it's frustrating. Little moments like that can cause such a big effect and a big knock-on effect, not just for this race but for the championship as well. And even a momentary snap like that can be damaging, as we've seen. So yeah, he'll be disappointed, no doubt about that. But drivers have to be wary, because it's easy to do again. This is the view of Cody Durkin. You can see the car's going to the right, so he goes to the right, and then he almost double guesses himself. I probably had space on the right hand side there, but that is a much uglier looking Aston Martin now.
Absolutely, and he did get a meatball from that, by the way, Cody Durkin. So he would have been in pit lane by now. That is a real shame to see, through no fault of your own. And I don't know whether you can apportion much blame to Gene Kelly there as well. I mean, the reverse across the circuit was very dangerous. Thankfully, that didn't really come of anything. But you know, is it reasonable to say that Kelly should know he's got so much damage in that situation, so he should just tow straight back to pit lane, or not? Because at most other points in the racetrack, the circuit's not that narrow and unclear as to where the racing line is and where you should be as a slower car. That I think you can probably give him the benefit of the doubt there, that he could have tried to drive it back and it ended up just not working. It's one of those things. But I'm sure Cody Durkin will be asking the question, why didn't you just tow back in the first place? Because it was quite clear you had a lot of damage there.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult as well, particularly at that part of the racetrack, because it's a very high-speed part of the track, clearly, because you just had a bit of an airplane crash, really, on the exit of that corner. It would have looked far worse in real life, of that there is no doubt. But it's a very narrow part of the circuit, and there's not really anywhere to bail out if you are trying to avoid any kind of incident in front of you. So, yeah, I think his argument will be, of course, that he was trying to see if the car would work and get around to see if he could get to pit lane and save himself the half of a lap that the towing would lose him. But then I think, stewards may say, or race control may say, that it's a dangerous part of the circuit to be trying that. You've got to be really, really careful. Aaron Mack, he's found some of the, I think, probably the biggest gravel trap on the entire circuit, and that's at the final corner. Easy to do as that rear end steps around.
This is Martin Wallace still in front of Mason Cardinale, who hasn't been able to resolve this situation of wanting to get past Wallace, but also wanting him to speed up. And those two things aren't necessarily compatible as we clear the first 10 minutes of this race here tonight. So the fellow Aston Martin had been for Bradley Beeman, who does find the concrete on the inside of turn 8. So Beeman will indeed drop back now as a result, and maybe even have a little bit of damage as well as we come onto the front straight with these guys. Cardinale into the slipstream of Wallace. Will that Mustang now overpower the Porsche in a way that you would expect, to be honest, given the straight line speed abilities of the two manufacturers? There goes the Mustang down the inside, but no, straight not quite long enough, and Wallace stays ahead.
Yeah, he will, just for the time being at least. Cardinale doesn't necessarily need to make this move. It won't gain him any points. Of course, with these two being in different classes and Cardinale already leading his, but it would give him an extra buffer over the likes of Tyler Manning, of which at the moment it's only Chris Walsh that separates them, and a couple of seconds in change as well. But for Mason Cardinale, this could be a really important move for Martin Wallace. He just can't really afford to let him through, because if he wants to try and have designs on the podium, he's got to make sure that this pesky open driver stays behind, and for the time being he will, because that outside line's not going to work through turn 5.
Not for the moment. Gap out front, by the way, is really reduced. Ian Carney only leads by just over a second ahead of Charlie Guillemette and Mats Lundman, so we are going to get a proper race for the lead. There's Aaron Mack into the outside gravel trap of the final corner there, and that's partly why a lot of the gravel has been dumped on the circuit there. The new gravel model being put onto the racetrack, and now in the way for everybody, as it is actually down at turn 5, I think, as well. There's quite a sizable bit of gravel on the circuit, but shouldn't affect too much down there. As we go back to Zach Pritchard, who's only just ahead of Justin Bessett, the Open Class Championship leader. Of course, the Open Class denoted by a red number on our left-hand side, and Bessett at the moment can't get through. He is ahead of Vega, who's closest to him in the championship. In fact, Mason Cardinale is down in 6th place in the championship, nearly 40 points behind Bessett, so he'd be fine with this situation. Vega, who really wants to get in front of Justin Bessett, because, well, 21 points doesn't sound like a lot. It's going to take quite a few weeks to close.
And you want to start that off sooner rather than later, obviously, in an ideal world, because you can't leave yourself too much to do by the end of the season. Cody Durkin off again there just before getting into the carousel. But I mean, already in this race we are, well over a quarter, nearing a third race distance, already elapsed here, and we've done a handful of laps, and that's how quickly this race is just going to pass us by here. Pit window is going to be relatively narrow because of the fact it's such a long lap. There's only a handful of laps where drivers could conceivably come into the pit lane. So Guillemette, does he try and overtake Carney on the circuit? Does he try and wait to do it in the pit lane? I think he's going to want to do it on the circuit just to be safe, but there is something to be said about the strategy battles that are ongoing, because we've seen it in the last couple of weeks particularly.
Mason Cardinale and a spin for the championship leader. Justin Bessett goes around in the Open Class. The championship leader spins out of 9th position, and that could be massive for Justin Bessett. He was applying the pressure to Zach Pritchard. It was looking good for him in that situation. The situation was fine, but he goes off, and meantime, Spicker going off the circuit, Cardinale's off. Oh my word, and that was a look from Wallace, who very nearly tries to take both of them there. Chris Walsh is the one who does take both, though, and he gets up into 4th place.
He does. And Walsh, of course, great result last week and really good performance over at the Red Bull Ring, and he's trying to replicate a little bit of that tonight in the 104. He's got a bit of time to catch up to Mats Motherman. We'll see if he can do that and defend. This is what happened to Seb. The number 12 on the inside, actually, we didn't see that from the live picture. That was Kyle Shelton coming in very, very late and going too deep and ending up causing a little bit of contact, enough to kick around the championship leader. I think Besette's going to be feeling slightly aggrieved by that.
Absolutely. He's got some work to do now. He's got some passes to make through the field. As Mason Cardinal tries to rub salt in the wound here and restore a car advantage between himself and his closest open class rival. Now Tyler Manning, as Martin Wallace comes in, probably a smart decision given the lap he's had, as Cardinal goes to the outside line. He's going to try and go around the outside, or going to go for the switchback instead. This is an angle of Besette's incident. So he was, he was very much touched by Carl Shelton, who was trying to pass Francisco Vega, I suppose that must be. I mean, that was pretty reckless, to be honest, from Shelton to clip him in that way. And Besett is going to be feeling very aggrieved indeed at that one. Surprised actually he didn't follow in and just decide to regroup in the pit lane, but he's leaving that for a little bit later.
He is, and maybe trying to push it past half distance to come down pit lane. We are seeing a couple of these early stops. Maybe a couple more than we have seen in the last couple of weeks. A lot of drivers left it late at the Red Bull Ring. I remember we had one or two that went early, around the 25, 27 minute mark, but generally the majority left it out as late as they possibly dared to come into the pit lane, just to make sure that they basically didn't have to fill up on fuel at all. So we'll have to see if that plays out. Dropping back at the moment, there is some nice gaps of clean air. Martin Wallace, despite dropping to P24, only has one car in the next 8 seconds up the road, which is a relatively nice amount of clean air, particularly on a busy track like this, in a race such as this. So he'll be feeling pretty well, but if you're at the front of the field, it's almost safer, isn't it, to stay towards the front, because you know exactly how many cars there are around you. And this being such a long track, you're unlikely to find any lapped cars.
Yes, unless you've had big trouble, you're not going to be put a lap down by these guys, even despite the pace at the front of the race. Ian Carney, though, is showing himself maybe to not be the quickest in terms of race pace. We're approaching half distance here. Charlie Guillemet and Matt Smotherman have really caught up in the last few moments. They're not battling with each other yet. There's a flash of the lights from Smotherman, as if to say, stop defending. I'm not trying to overtake you. I'm trying to catch up to the race leader right now. And this cooperation has worked them wonders in the last few moments. Now, though, a mistake from Guillemet is going to force their hand. Matt Smotherman goes down the inside into second.
Yeah, an effective move made. He saw the opportunity, went for it, and he's got it done effectively. So we'll see if Guillemet comes back at him towards turn number 5, and it looks like he will, but that is a really good operation from Matt Smotherman. Cody Durkin's been off again at turn 2. In the live picture, you can see Smotherman defending the inside line. Guillemet trying to walk it around the outside at turn number 5, but Smotherman controls the inside line and will control P2. Good move for the 84, and we'll see if he can push on towards Ian Carney now.
Yeah, I said that they've worked together well, but that's fallen apart rather as we've started to watch them here. I mean, I can't understand the logic of even wanting to fight each other. I get when, Guillemet makes a mistake and Smotherman just slips down the inside. I totally understand that, but the stuff afterwards, Guillemet trying to make a legitimate overtake when the gap to the leader has just doubled, and they could have kept that on a much tighter leash. Now they've got to spend a lot more time trying to catch up to the leader all over again, like they just have. They're effectively retracing the steps that they've just completed, all for the sake of a small battle there, and an unsuccessful, ultimately, attempt by Charlie Guillemet to get to second.
Yeah, I think there will be confidence, though, in these two, because they've done it once before. They can probably do it again. Smotherman has shown some good pace leading that charge towards Ian Carney, as Mason Cardinal thinks about a move on Chris Walsh, but that's all. He just he sits behind, doesn't end up going for it, and the 35 will continue in P5 at the moment. But yeah, as for Smotherman, he's gained a couple of tenths away from Guillemet again this time by, and he's also gained those 2 tenths on Ian Carney, so it looks like that gap is going down once again. It's just how late do you leave it, really? You don't want to keep having to catch without ever having a go at making the move, right?
Manning is... Cardinal's going to have a decent chance again here. He wants to restore that advantage, but can't do it again. Chris Walsh runs around the outside and stays in front. Skylar Vickroy comes in meantime. Was 11th place when Vickroy came in, and I think we can say that's a very good recovery indeed. Spinning on lap number 1 in the way that he did is a sure way to make sure you have to make as many overtakes as possible, but that's a good effort so far. And hopefully for his sake he can continue to climb the field in the second half of the race as well.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of drivers over the course of the season so far who have had difficult starts from the front of the field, and it has been a really exciting to watch them work their way back through the field, and we feel like that role falls to Skylar Vickroyd tonight. We'll see how far through the field he can get. It's a relatively long stop though. You can see Kyle Shelton was only stopped for 13.4 seconds. Skylar Vickroyd's been stopped for 14.7. However, despite finding himself stopped stationary for over a second longer, the difference in pit lane time is only 0.3. So he's nailed the metrics of exit and entry. As Guillemet's gone wide, he's getting pushed around here a little bit. Chris Walsh is now through, and all of a sudden Guillemette looks very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, it's a mistake or slow down somewhere for Tyler Guillemette, because he was a couple of seconds in front of this, and now he's actually behind Chris Walsh, who's back on the podium again. And Mason Cardinal is still sat there and still actually losing time to his open class rivals, despite the fact he must be not going as quick as he can. Well, he's stuck behind these two. Guillemette again has a look down the inside of Canada corner. No way through there. This is really Matt Smotherman, and I wonder how long it will take him now to catch Ian Carney, because when he's not under pressure, he just seems to be able to go a little bit quicker than the race leader.
And it's looking like it's Smotherman's chance now, actually, as he goes through the lead. Look at that. Ian Carney, possibly... Oh, is that a slow down penalty? Oh, it must be. Oh, he's coming into the pit lane. Ooh. Lost track of him there. That'll be why he was slowing down, because he's stopping in his box very shortly. But Matt Smotherman continues onwards. Is that going to help out the 84 and the 104 and the 5 in terms of the fact that they should have to be able to put on less fuel into the car when they make their pit stop? That should shorten off their time, and we could have a change in the lead of the race by virtue of the pit stops. Also, because Smotherman has more pace, even if they spend the same amount of time stationary, I think Smotherman's going to have a good chance. Herrick's gone around. There's no O-ring on that car.
Yeah, I think... oh yeah, that's going to be repairs for Mitch Herrick. I think, by the way, Carney didn't have a very good run out the final corner anyway. I think he was losing time anyway. But then decided, I'll cut my losses here and coming into the pit lane. But if he comes out in traffic, then that's not going to be cutting his losses at all. In fact, he'll be cutting his arm off slightly. So we'll need to be careful and see where indeed the traffic is. And he has actually come out in a nice window there in 12th place behind Peter McDade, who's leading at the moment in the beneficiaries class. Not spoken about too much so far tonight as we run aboard with Mason Cardinal. This is what's been happening to John Hicks, one of our beneficiary class drivers, just clipping the grass on the way towards the carousel before going for a spin into the infield. Don't often see drivers in that grass there, but he's found it and then stumbles his way back onto the circuit as well, and then stumbles back off it again as he spins and hits the wall this time.
It's an extravaganza of little moments there for John Hicks, just showing all parts of the circuit that he didn't know existed and more. But yeah, not exactly what he'd want to see on his screen, and it just goes to show one little mistake can feed into another, and it becomes almost an exponential downward spiral. So it's crucial to avoid that first mistake, or if you do make the first mistake, the ability to try and dial it in and make sure that it's not going to happen again can be really tricky. But it is a really good way, I think, to try and look at moments like that. If you've made a mistake, that's the bad occurrence for the race. You never feel like you're going to have a perfect race ever. So if you have a little bit of a moment, a little bit of a half spin, if you can almost see that as the moment and it's going to get better from here, I think psychologically that can help you out quite well.
16.5 minutes to go, and Zach Pritchard the only one to come in this time round from Mason Cardinal and Chris Walsh in as well. So Tyler Bayman moves up, Peter McDade as well, although hasn't stopped yet. Up 19 places so far, Tyler Bayman. That's a good job from him. But as you can see there, no pit stop made. Ian Carney gets out not that far in front of Chris Walsh actually, so I wonder whether that's concerning for Ian Carney there. He would have been hoping to clear Walsh more than that. And are we looking now at a Matt Smotherman race lead in a moment because of that pit stop phase that doesn't look like it's favouring the long-time race leader Ian Carney just for the moment?
Yeah, I hazard to agree. Smotherman had the pace, didn't he, in that opening stint, and at the end of the opening stint to close right up to Ian Carney. So he's looking pretty good, I'd say. And you'd expect him to be able to take on less fuel. There's going to be less than 15 minutes to go when he makes his way down pit lane, whether it's this time by or a following lap. Guillemette staying relatively close, but you feel at the moment that it's between Smotherman and Carney on who's going to come out in the lead and who can pull away at the moment.
See how long Smotherman waits. If I was him, I'd be going as long as possible, though, even despite a bit of traffic there. So Aston Martin going for a spin just in front of him. Thankfully, he didn't crash into him or indeed get in his way, because that would have been unideal out of the final corner. And Smotherman is going to carry on another time. Can't remember how many minutes they pitted at the very end of the race, especially at Sebring. I seem to remember the lead is going a very long way. I can't remember how many minutes it was before the finish when they came in. I think it was in the last 10 though. I do wonder whether some of them might be able to squeeze 3 or more laps out of this, in which case, as you say, it would be a very short stop, and the point at which they join up, Carney and Smotherman, will be very reduced. And in any case, I think Smotherman will be in front by that stage, because for whatever reason, Carney had good speed in the for the pole lap, but and indeed good start to retain the lead, but whether he's actually got the full-on race pace when you set these guys apart and let them run at their own pace, it's not looking like it at the moment, as Tyler Manning continues to lead in the open class. Lots to work out there in this class as well, of course.
Yeah, really exciting though, I think, to see almost the ebbing and flowing nature of the race in what is only a 40-minute race. Not normally a length that you'd see this much toing and froing. Of course, for Ian Carney, like you said, got pole, led the race, and then has slowly dropped back and has possibly lost the lead. We'll have to wait and see on that one, as Mason Cardinal and Martin Wallace fight over 10th and 11th. Zach Pritchard in 9th was the one making the move. And that, I believe, will put him into what could be a leading position in that open class, pending a couple of pit stops, the likes of Manning and Vega.
Side by side in towards the turn 5 for Cardinal, who's tentative down the inside there of Pritchard, and you can see why now, as they just narrowed up on the exit of turn 5. He looks down the inside now, does Cardinal, and does he go through? Not quite. Pritchard holds firm on the outside line and stays ahead. That was a good bit of defending there from Zach Pritchard, who's still now in front of Cardinal. He's got a big job on his hands and some big overtakes to make. Another look down the inside, this time at turn 8, and another one that comes up unsuccessful.
Yeah, not going to make it work there, and Pritchard's going to maybe be able to capitalise on that in the end mistake from Cardinal in trying to make that move. Pritchard just trying to find every extra hundredth, every single tenth to get himself away and give him a bit more breathing room down in towards Canada Corner. This is Matt Smotherman. What's happened? No, there's nothing happening to him. He's just running in the lead of the race. But he is still on track. Of course, he's gone around one more time, which means that by the time he comes into the pit lane, there's going to be at most about 10.5 minutes left.
Yeah, and that's not long in terms of a fuel fill there. Of course, the fuel percentage is limited in this series to ensure that everybody has to make a stop at some point. Otherwise, over the course of 40 minutes, nobody will be coming in, and that doesn't make for the best racing. Zach Merrill comes into the pit lane and will go behind these guys, who might even be battling for an open class win later tonight. We'll see what happens with the others like Manning and Vega. But look at this for Cardinal on the inside line going in towards turn number 1. A half defence, a shaping of defence from Zach Pritchard, who's now going to be running around the outside through turn number 1. Oh, and they make contact on the exit as well, as Pritchard was coming back on the racetrack after going slightly wide. Cardinal held his ground though in the big Mustang on the inside. He's still on the inside now through turn 3. And can he now shut the door? He can. Mason Cardinal up to 8th place, importantly, in front of Zach Pritchard. And here comes Martin Wallace.
Yeah, and Wallace trying to pick his way through both of them at the moment. Cardinal on the 35 just about going to make his way through. Whoa! Zach Pritchard all over the grass trying to find a way through. That's going to make Martin Wallace go to the inside line, as Pritchard goes from the inside to the outside in a split second. But Martin Wallace is going to get that one done in the 666. He's going to have to make sure that he's completed it on the inside. But he takes such a defensive line through there whilst attacking that Pritchard's able to walk around the outside and take the position back again. So they are somehow pretty much as they were just a few corners ago.
Well, Mason Cardinal in front, but what an audacious attempt at a re-overtake from Zach Pritchard, by the way. Very, very interesting. This, by the way, could be the battle for the lead later as well. Ian Carney versus Chris Walt, although I'm increasingly thinking it's going to be Matt Smotherman to take the victory tonight. Tyler Guillemette comes in, and this is going to be very telling. If Guillemette comes out ahead of these two, then we know the answer to those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be a really key look into how the race is panning out as well. And Francisco Vega, where could he find himself after flying on the radar a little bit and, of course, having a short stop? How long is the stop time for Guillemette as well? Of course, remember, we were looking at 13, 14 second mark for the likes of Carney, Chris Wald. It feels like Carney's going to work his way through here. Yes, it's a long way to the start-finish line, but it's a long stop for Tyler Guillemette. And he's only saved himself all of, what, a second and a half? There he is coming off the box in the purple car. But Ian Carney is through. He's up into P5, which will be P4 over. Oh, no, that wasn't Guillemette. Oh, Guillemette's in front. Oh, my goodness me. I was looking at the wrong car. My apologies for Guillemette. In the end, that is a good stop. And that's good news for Matt Smotherman, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He was a couple of seconds in front of Tyler Guillemette before all these pit stops. And the fact that the McLaren is now ahead of former race leader Ian Carney suggests that we know where Matt Smotherman's going to be as Chris Walsh flashes the lights. I think Carney's fighting for a podium now, and that's a remarkable fall from where he was earlier. Here comes Chris Walsh down the inside, and this is going from bad to worse now for Ian Carney, the pole sitter tonight, who's getting a cutback, and he's back on the inside line, but he just backs out of it. Almost been drilled into submission here now. He's off of the podium, I believe, Ian Carney at this stage. This is a bad second half of the race for the man who led unchallenged in the first part.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Oh, and Jonathan Labie getting a bit of a helping hand around in 471. I know what he needed to tool at the final, but not the only driver to go around at the final for this tonight. What happened to Mitch Herrick down at turn 1? No one around him. Quite a tight line to the inside at turn 1. A little bit too tight. That rear end's not going to cope and spins around. But as he bounces hard off of that wall, it's pit stop time for Smotherman and Vega, who were leading their respective classes as they came into the pit lane.
Into the pit lane for Justin Bessett, who comes to his top now. It looks like we have reached our limit in terms of the fuel. So how many laps are going to be remaining here? Is it going to be 4 or 5? It will be quite telling for a few pit stops as Matt Smotherman makes his. Don't forget, he'll be quite close to the end of the lane, so he's got to, for Guillemette, got to be still stopped now, really, and he's out already. He's back out onto the racetrack now. We can see Guillemette here. He's not going to be anywhere near, because you can see on the graphic that Smotherman is out on the circuit and already a long way in front. I think oh dear, Guillemette has a look down the inside of a lap car there. One of the Lamborghinis that was just in his way for a brief moment, but I think we're going to have one of those nights where the result sheet maybe doesn't quite reflect the flow of the race, because Smotherman is looking quite comfortable now.
He is indeed, and he's walking away with it. Walsh and Carney, they're almost starting a fist fight with each other now. Tyler Manning's just almost an accessory to that at this stage. Is there a chance there for Chris Walsh? He's looking for it around the outside, but Guillemette not going to let him have any kind of run. But a bit of a snap inside line. Can Chris Walsh find it? He's seen the opportunity. He's gone for the move, and Guillemette going to have to defend around the outside, and does it very well so far, but the move's not done yet.
No, it's still going to be going on and mired in traffic at the moment as well. Here comes Chris Walsh down the inside at turn 8. Bit of a squeeze, bit of contact as well as they fight for second. Chris Walsh having a bit of a resurgence really in the second half of this race after looking a bit defensive for the first point. He's now round the outside through the carousel. You don't see moves like this very often. Oh my word, this will be spectacular if he can pull this one off, and I don't think he's going to, but he's held it out for a long time. Fair play to him. He's on the outside now for the kink. Guillemette has to turn in a little bit delayed compared to the others. Here comes Carney and Manning in the background. They're going to be joining in. That was a great attempt by Chris Walsh, but in the end just ran out of road. You never see round the outside the carousel work. We nearly did for the first time, but not quite. Even Chris Walsh didn't quite have the grip for that.
No, but it just shows how much confidence he had that he went for it, and I think that's quite telling here. It means that Guillemette is not safe at any corner around this track this evening. And they come out of the final corner now, and you can just about see Ian Carney drifting wide. Tyler Manning fighting for every single thousandth of what as they crossed the line last time by, we may still have 4 to go here with Matt Smotherman leading. In fact, oh no, I think it will be 3. He crossed the line with about 6 minutes 10 to go. And at the pace that they're lapping, I think he just about will make it 3 laps to go. Chris Walsh wouldn't mind leading, well, I say leading, being in second place in all 3 of those laps, and he's done a good job at getting the move done quickly. He's up to P2 now.
It's hard to decide for these guys whether they want another one or not, because it depends what position they're in for that particular second as it continues to change again and again. Carney's trying to rescue his podium now. As Tyler Guillemette tried to make the move on Walsh, he's now lost his momentum, and here comes the pole sitter. Looking on the outside line, but he's not going to get through there. He'll go for the switchback. He'll have a look down the inside now into turn 6. Is he going to stay there, stay committed? He will do. Guillemette gives him the room. Oh, wow, that was close again as they come through the right-hander. He's going to be braking early, Carney, and he's going to have to tuck back in again. And here comes Tyler Manning, by the way. Unsure as to whether he's going to get involved, because if those two fight ahead of him too much, then Mason Cardinell will fight with him for the Open Class win. There's a lot to look at here at the front.
There is, and I think all of these guys feel like they have a good chance at improving on their position by the end of the race. Maybe not Chris Welch, though, with the 8.5 seconds up to Mats Motherman. He's going to be looking to consolidate ahead of Tyler Guillemette, and he's done that very well on the last lap. That gap is now up to 1.4 seconds between second and third, and Chris Welch looks like he's heading for yet another good result, as you said, bit of a resurgence in his season that can only be a confidence boost and moving him from strength to strength, which is always good to see. When Smotherman crosses the line, is going to be really telling here. I think it's going to be with about 4:10 to go. Let's see, we could get a third lap here. It's such a long run to the line, that's not helping particularly. There we go. So we crossed the line with about 4 minutes 8. Tight, isn't it?
3, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's going to squeeze an extra lap out of this because of his speed at the front. As I say, I'm not sure whether these guys will want that one or not, but Tyler Manning is now going to go for an Ian Carney, who now does need the extra laps, in fact, and Manning puts a car between himself and Mason Cardinell. We get the feeling that was very important because he was starting to lose a lot of time and Cardinell was trying to get close, but it could backfire as Carney tries to refire. Inside at turn 3, can't do it there, but you'll be sure he'll be having another go at turn 5.
It is indeed. Let's see, Ian Carney, can he recover past Tyler Manning? It's a bit of a fall from grace from earlier. The 54. Inside line, can he get this one done? He's broken very, very late indeed. Is it too late? No, nicely managed by the pole sitter up to P4 once again. He won't gain many points to complete that move, but it means that he's got a better chance at maybe picking up the pieces if Tyler Guillemette makes a mistake.
It wouldn't take much here for as Cardinell's now right by them, by the way, by Manning. Take much for Guillemette to slip behind Carney at this stage, but there is Mason Cardinell. We've got a battle for the race lead in the Open Class and the Beneficiary Class, by the way. Louis Rios and Nolan Yuka nose to tail at the moment for that for that Beneficiaries Class victory. There it is. We'll try and keep an eye on both at the moment. The battle for 15th place and indeed the battle for 5th. Rios under a lot of pressure here with Nolan Yuka right behind. It's going to be a grandstand finish between those two, and if Rios can hold this, it'll be a real stamp of authority over this season.
Yeah, and that's going to be another good result for him. It's always been nice to get a word from Louis Rios after the race, whether it's gone well or not. And it does look like tonight's race is going as well as it has all season, realistically. He's got Nolan Nuke just there behind him. But at the moment, it looks like he's got it relatively under control. And it is good, really, that the Open and the Beneficiary Class leads are very, very small, even if there's a 9-second gap at the front of the field for the Pro Class. So we've still got battles going on, and just as I say, that Cardinell's fighting with Tyler Manning, and the 35 gets to the lead of the Open Class down the Canada corner.
So Mason Cardinell trying to take victory here as Smotherman's on to what we think will be his second last lap now in the race. See whether Cardinell can hold on to position here with the just couple attempts that he has over Tyler Manning at the moment. Feeling now the pro drivers are clear of these two. He will stay single file. Now Manning's in the situation where he will definitely want this extra lap to be at the end of this one. Might be able to give it one more go, but he's trying up the hill towards turn 6 as if this is the last one. They won't know until they get to the line, but can be sure that Manning's going to throw everything at it as a result. He's going to throw everything at this, almost acting as if this is the last lap.
Yeah, I think it's best to do that. You don't want to, sit there and think there's going to be an extra lap and then find out Mats Madelman has actually slowed the race by a tiny smidgen. So, yeah, I think you've got to race as if this is the final lap, and if you've got to go around one more time, then so be it. I wonder as well if that will make any difference with fuel calculations for the drivers, because if they've calculated for 1 lap less than the run, is there anyone that's at risk of running out of fuel here?
Yeah, there might be a few people who have miscalculated here. If indeed this is not the last lap, 15 seconds to go, and it looks like Smotherman's going to force an extra on. The white flag's going to be waving at the end of this one, I believe. And we're going to get one more lap to enjoy, especially from the open class and beneficiary class leads. White flag waves, a few seconds to go. Smotherman forced it. He didn't need to, by the way. He had the space, more than enough space to slow down, but it's not in his interest to do that. He might as well just carry on as he is. None of the top 5 have to come in, but let's see whether they can make it to the end as Vega gets past Pritchard in the background. There could be some real changes happening here on the very last lap. Maybe even for some class leads as well through the field.
Yeah, and that's going to be the best way to end out this evening's worth of racing. Skylar Vickery, by the way, has got himself back up to P9. He started in the top 3, spun on the opening lap, but has had an absolutely stellar race to recover to what could even be the top 8 if he can get through on Francisco Vega on this final lap. But I am interested to see if there is anybody who may run out of fuel on this final lap. Mason Carnell does not look like he's one of them. He's overtaken Ian Carney for P4 overall. It's just going to help him out by giving him a buffer back to Tyler Manning in terms of the points tally. For Ian Carney, that's not going to... well, it's going to be slightly demoralising, really, after a pole position earlier.
Looks like that car between Manning and Cardinal might well settle it in favour of the Mustang. Good pit strategy through the middle of the race, though, from Tyler Manning that he'll be able to take a lot of heart from. The fact that did work for him, and he did get out in front briefly. These two are similarly placed in the championship, by the way, around 40 points off Justin Bassett, who is going to lose some points here tonight, although he does rescue a top 10. That's a champion's drive, if ever you've seen one there, just rescuing positions when you've had a bad day, rescuing the position he currently holds, that top 10 that he currently holds at the moment. Defence even from Carney into the final corner as Nolan Newt gives it a go as well for the race lead in the beneficiary class as well. It's going to be Matt Smotherman, though, who to come out the final corner here in a moment to win at Road America in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. He flashes the lights, he'll be very pleased. He in the end wins by over 10 seconds from Road America, perhaps flattering him slightly, but he drove very, very well. Mason Cardinal's going to win in the open class with that late pass on Tyler Manning. And in the beneficiary, it's going to be between Rios and Uke to the line. Even down in towards Canada corner, they were looking close. See whether there's going to be a change between the two of them on the way in here. Not on the way in, and it's a bit wide, actually. This is a replay of what happened a couple of moments ago. This is how it transpired. Uke down the inside, and he did make a pass. He did make a pass down there on the inside. That was just a couple of moments ago. In the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you can see the live pictures. Uke is still in front of Rios, who might have the run to the line here. He's certainly got a better exit. He's got the more powerful Mustang running up towards the line as well. Can he pull out and get his nose in front in time? Not quite. And it's a last lap pass for Nolan Uke to win the beneficiary class.
Yeah, fantastic work from him, and great to see those two battling right towards the line. And it was a great move as well to the inside at Canada corner for the number 34. And Nolan Uke, yeah, he's going to be absolutely delighted with that. Louis Roche, and then Peter McDade running out the top 3 in that class. Tyler Beamon almost getting in on the action at the end there in all of that. But yeah, fantastic race in all of our classes tonight. So much action across the field, and yet again, a tightly packed race, which is exactly what we've come to expect the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly what you hope for from these races. And it's delivered once again. We're officially over the halfway mark in season 11. And it certainly has delivered for us so far. Let's have a look at the race results here from Road America tonight. At the end of the day was over 10 seconds for Matt Swimmerman, who wins with Chris Walsh and Tyler Guillemette also on the podium. Mason Cardinal finishes first in the open class, 4th overall, with Ian Carney rounding out the overall top 5. It's Tyler Manning who is 6th ahead of Martin Wallace and Skylar Vickroy. Francisco Vega is on the podium in the open class, with Justin Bessett 4th in that class after that spin through turn 5. Induced, of course, by Kyle Shelton down the inside. I think we'll see him on the next row of results down towards 20th place. Indeed, we were 11th place for Kyle Shelton. Nicholas Batista 12th ahead of Nolan Uke and Louis Rios, who gained a couple of places actually compared to where they were going on to the last lap. But it's Uke who passes Rios for the class win. What a great end to the race for those two. Tyler Beerman rounds out the top 15 with Peter McDade on the podium and John Salada, the last driver, within 1 minute of the win. Zach Merrill, Justin Wells and Eric Knight round out the top 20. Aaron Mack was 21st with Philip Chartier next. Jonathan Labby was 23rd, with Zach Pritchard dropping down at the very end to 24th. Cameron Burke, Tyler Reid, Tanner Masters and Anthony Howard rounding out those on the lead lap. Dave Bell and Richard Davenport both 1 lap down. Mitch Herrick was as well, with John Hicks. Bradley Beeman, Cody Durkin and Gene Kelly did not get to the finish. They retired all in the first half of tonight's race. Nobody waiting in the interview room just yet, but we'll hope they pop themselves in there for a second and give us a chance to chat to us. But I think, Dara, that's the first time this season we've seen a last lap pass. The beneficiary class win it was for. It was a great pass from Nolan Uke as well. Textbook really, and does make you wonder a little bit why Louis Rios didn't defend the inside a little bit more than what he did in the end.
Yeah, final real overtaking opportunity of the entire race. You'd think that is where you're going to focus your efforts of defence, but maybe he just wasn't quite expecting the move late, but surely you've got to expect it if you're fighting for the lead on the final lap in a corner such as Canada Corner. But yeah, we'll have to see if we get away with him, whether he's feeling frustrated. But if not, it may be because he's frustrated, right? Because this is a great chance for him. It was a great chance, but sadly it's not worked out.
Yeah. That's it's a shame for Louis Rios, but we'll chat to him in a second. We'll first of all chat to Nolan Uke, who can now join us. Nolan, welcome in. Congratulations on a race victory tonight in the beneficiary class. You must be delighted. Tell us about the emotions and that last lap pass that you made there for the win.
So, that battle started probably 10 minutes into the race, and it just didn't stop. I mean, I would make a mistake, he would pass me, I would catch back up, he would make a slight mistake. So we just went back and forth that whole race, and I kind of knew where I was catching him on the track every lap. So I kind of was like, I don't know if I want to pass him on the last lap or the second to the last. He made a mistake on the second to the last, and I had no choice. I had to go for it, and then I knew I would have to defend. But yeah, Luis put up a heck of a race. It was great. It was a phenomenal battle.
Yeah, it was great fun to watch as well. I mean, how has the season been so far? Because we've not had too much time to chat to you. 4th place currently in the standings. You move up to 3rd place, maybe even 2nd with this win here tonight. Has it been a season you've been pleased with so far?
There's been a lot of ups and downs. I mean, as you've seen throughout the season, I do my own. A lot of times I find myself making my own mistakes in the race that will cause me to have bad finishes and stuff. So that's what I'm trying to work on, is just consistency and get better all the time. I have a good group of battle brothers here within Opmo that I race with and quite often. So just keep competing, keep practicing, and keep getting better.
Well, congratulations on winning tonight in the beneficiary class, and thanks for chatting to us as well at the end of the race.
Hey, thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
Thanks so much. That is Nolan Uke in the victory lane, as it were, for tonight's race, just in front of Louis Rios, who we can also chat to now. Sorry to interrupt. Louis, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Tell us how you're feeling at the end of that race. It's the 2nd place and a good haul of points and so on, but you must be disappointed to have lost the race so late on there.
Even very, very tired. That's first and foremost. Very, very tired. That was a physical fight the whole race with Nolan there, and then a crazy race up to the end. I don't know if you guys saw the drag race between us.
Yeah, we saw the last lap battle coming towards the line. I mean, what was your plan for that final part of the race, by the way, in terms of defending? You went into it in the lead. What was your thoughts on a plan for the race, the final lap of the race?
Well, to be honest, first and foremost, I really wasn't looking at the box as much, so I didn't even know if I was fighting for P1, P2, or P3. So I was just like, just keep pushing, and yeah, just trying to keep it clean, because once I lost the tires halfway through, I was struggling, and it took me a little bit to adjust. And yeah, Nolan took advantage. He stuck with me the whole time, and then yeah, it was a good fight.
Well, congrats on finishing second, nevertheless, tonight, Louis. And thanks as always for coming to have a chat with us after the race.
No, thank you to you guys for giving us the awesome broadcast every week, and thank you to Opmo and to all the sponsors.
Thanks very much. That's Louis Rios, who has finished in second tonight in the beneficiary class. Go to some of the other classes now. It's been a bit of a thing in the last couple of weeks. People have been joining us from other classes as well, which they're more than welcome to. Chris Walsh, second place overall tonight, can now do so as well. Chris, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats on a second place finish overall here tonight. Tell us how your race went from your point of view. It was a race of lots of battles, especially towards the end. You managed to battle your way through into second place. How are you feeling at the end of that?
Yeah, I was. I made a mistake on fueling and quality, so when I got to my push lap, my good lap when the tire was finally in the window, I was out of gas in like the final few corners, so I had to start kind of further back than normally I would. So started 11th, I believe, and yeah, it's kind of fun though. Get to run through the field. The racing is, these guys are great at racing clean, so a lot of good side-by-side action the whole time, and really just kind of trying to fight my way up there to get close enough to Matt. I fueled maybe a bit too long at the stop, and then I got some traffic that held me up, so I wasn't able to be right there with him at the end for the win. But nonetheless, not bad. 11th second, so it was good.
Yeah, and by the way, we saw your attempt at a move around the outside of the carousel, which was very entertaining to watch. Unfortunately, didn't quite come off, but that was an ambitious. A bit ambitious attempt. It very nearly came off. As I said to a few others, we haven't had too much chance to speak to you so far this season. So how do you think it's gone? You will have moved on to at least sixth place in the standings tonight with this result. How have you found the season so far?
Yeah, it's good. I can't always make the races. I do some real world racing as well up in IMSA. So these some weeks I'm just busy and can't make it. So I just come out mainly because I love what this organization does, and it's just a good crowd of folks. So the racing's been great. They've got some fast guys. It always makes for exciting battles. So the season's been going pretty well for when I've shown up. And then, it's not really about chasing championships in this series. It's just about getting to hang out with these guys. So yeah, it's always a good time.
Well, I'm glad you've had a good time in the races we've seen you at so far. Hopefully we'll see you at some more in the future as well, but good luck with the real stuff when you're not here. Hopefully, as I say, we'll see you again soon, but for now, thanks for chatting to us, and congrats on second place tonight.
I appreciate it. Good night, guys.
Thanks so much. That's Chris Walsh, second place overall tonight in the pro class, and indeed overall as well. Good race, I would say, Darragh, at the end of the first half of our season in the Operation Motorsport, eMotorsport iRacing League. We're into the home stretch now, as it were. We've gone around the turn. We're on the way back. It's the second half of the season, but that was a great way to bring it to it as well. And chatting to Chris Walsh at the end there, he was certainly involved in fair share of the battles that we were enjoying, especially late on there.
Yeah, I think we're getting better and better as we go through the season, to be honest with you. I mean, the race quality is increasing, and the field feels like it's getting ever tighter, which is exactly what we want to be seeing, particularly as we go into a few races in the next few weeks where, stereotypically overtaking is going to be difficult. And Mid-Ohio is a place where it's not renowned for a lot of side-by-side action, particularly in these machines, but with the field getting ever tighter, I think I'm really looking forward to seeing how they race around here.
Absolutely. We'll be at Mid-Ohio next week from 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you join us again on the 7th of October. We are now racing for every Tuesday in October until the end of this season and it's going to be a lot of fun once again if this is anything to go by, of course, tonight. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight, as always, on a Tuesday for the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing series. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Darrell Thackett in the commentary box with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. It's goodbye from Road America and a victory for Matt Smotherman tonight. Join us next week to find out what happens at Mid-Ohio in round number 6. Goodbye for now.